Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be a spicier person after watching this video. Try to get me fired by making up a sexual harassment claim? Try again. This is a long story and I'll try to shorten it as much as possible. It's also my first time posting here, so please let me know any way I can improve this so it's easier to read. Background. About 10 years ago, a position came up interstate in a rural office of a major government department, paying 6 figures and doing exactly what I wanted to do. I jumped at the opportunity, and after a short interview process, was lucky enough to land the job. Or unlucky enough, as you'll find out. A few weeks after getting the job, I started my first day, and was surprised that the manager that had interviewed me, who I was supposed to be working for and had gotten along really well with, had mysteriously disappeared to a whole different area. I was a little concerned, but didn't really give it much thought, and was eager to start the job. The cast. The people I was working with seemed nice. One manager, one senior about 60 years old, myself and 3 juniors. One female early 20s and 2 males. One early 20s who's innocent in all of this and isn't referenced in the story, and one in his late 20s who definitely wasn't innocent. The story. Little did I realise that while I was out doing my job, which involved a lot of travel and meetings, the 2 juniors and the senior, who all seemed nice on the surface, actually hated that I had gotten the job over the late 20s male junior and were plotting my downfall. After almost a year, things were getting a bit weird in the team and I was being treated quite differently by the 3 of them. Things like walking in on hushed conversations where I heard my name mentioned, which would promptly stop as soon as I entered, or having my stuff go missing, all very childish. I started looking for other jobs, and after a short search, managed to get one lined up back in the city I came from in 4 weeks' time. As things were about to come to an end for me there, I decided to figure out what was going on in that team and left a device to record what was being said while I wasn't there. After a week of doing this, I had 5 days of recording and spent a weekend at home going through the recordings. What I heard pissed me right off. Over the course of 7 different conversations, the 3 of them were talking about how I didn't deserve the job and how they wanted to get rid of me just like they had the previous manager. They were talking about how to do it, and one of the juniors, a girl in her early 20s, said she would make a complaint to HR about me inappropriately touching her and making unwanted advances. I freaked out. This could seriously screw with everything I'd worked for. I contacted my girlfriend, who luckily for me had studied law, to get some advice on unfortunately in my country it was illegal to record in the workplace without the consent of the person you were recording and permission from the organisation to use a recording device. So the evidence I had wouldn't be able to be used to defend myself. I barely slept over the weekend, and decided my only hope was to try to get to HR before them on Monday and get my side of the story heard and hope they believe me. Only problem was I had an off-site meeting first thing on Monday morning and wouldn't arrive at the office until lunchtime. The meeting dragged forever, but finally it was over, and I raced back to the office praying that they hadn't gone to HR yet. The revenge. As soon as I got in, I was confronted by 2 ladies who worked in the area next to ours that I was quite friendly with, and was told I needed to come with them right now. My gut sinking, I followed them into a meeting room, and what happened next saved my bacon. One of the ladies had come in earlier than the senior or 2 juniors in my team, and because of that, they hadn't realised anyone else was around. She had overheard and made notes of the whole conversation of the girl telling the other 2 exactly what she was going to make up to HR, and heard them all laughing about how I was going to be fired and then one of them could have my job. They were even stupid enough to say it'll be just like what happened with the old manager and that I would be ruined, and it'll serve me right for being an entitled city douche. We went straight to our HR rep, who coincidentally had just finished hearing a sexual harassment complaint from a certain female junior, and asked us to come with her to see the CEO. The 2 nice ladies told the HR rep and the CEO everything. The CEO was super apologetic and promised me things would be sorted quickly, but I decided not to wait. I went back to my desk, wrote my resignation and handed it to my manager, who knew nothing about any of what was going on. He then proceeded to freak out when I told him everything and told me to just go home, chill out and sleep on things, which I did. Management were pissed. The next morning, as soon as I got into work, my manager told me I needed to go straight down to the CEO's office, which I did. The CEO and 2 lawyers were waiting for me, and what followed was half an hour of the CEO begging me to stay and that I would be looked after if I did. I thanked him, but said that I'd already made up my mind and that I would be leaving effective immediately. The lawyers were looking at the CEO worried, and I figured where this was going. So I asked what compensation the organisation would be providing given the harassment I had endured, and that I would be leaving due to this incident. I was asked to wait outside, and after a short while invited back in, where I was offered 3 months of paid leave paid in full upfront as well as moving expenses, a total of about $40,000 before tax, which I accepted. I went around and said my goodbyes, including to the old manager, who had heard about what happened and had gotten me a rather expensive bottle of scotch as a thank you. The best part was saying goodbye to my team, who other than my manager were unaware of the storm that was about to come and were all thinking that they had just gotten me fired. They could barely contain their excitement, and I even saw the two juniors give each other winks as I said my farewells. I wish I'd been there for the fireworks, but I heard it all secondhand from one of the ladies that had helped me. About an hour after I left, they were one by one called down to the CEO's office, and after a couple of hours, they all suddenly returned and started packing up their stuff. They had all been fired on the spot. The best part? The senior was only a year or two off his retirement, and having worked for the government for the better part of 30 years, was in line to get one sweet pension. Not anymore. As for the juniors, the male now works as an electrician for his dad's business. The female is a retail assistant last I heard. As for me, I moved back to the city and at the age of 30, I'm a senior in an engineering firm earning a good chunk more than I was there and having just bought my second house. Life is good. I feel a little flexed on, but okay. I'm glad everything worked out for him, although I'm surprised the old manager didn't start legal proceedings after being moved to a different area on false sexual harassment claims. And how scary is it to think that a single false claim could ruin your entire career? So you want to falsely accuse me of touching your kid? Huh, let's dance. Background. I work in social work with individuals with intellectual disabilities. Part of that work involves working with children who have mental health issues, CMH. I am currently the only male staff in the area who's qualified to work with kids because it requires a ton of special training. The cast. Me, a 25-year-old newbie to social work. BK, brat kid, a decent kid with some brat-like tendencies and one awful-ass mother. BM, brat's mum, witch mum, or a piece of literal, non-figurative crap. Take your pick. DW, Daniel effing Webster, the greatest lawyer who ever lived, reincarnated into a local defense attorney. With all that said, let's get down to business. Exposition, time to do the adult thing. In 2012, I moved out of my parents' home and back to the town where I went to college, having taken a job at a local social workplace. It's a great place, has its issues much like any similar business, see my other posts. But at the end of the day, their heart is in the right place. One of my duties early on was to work with 3 kids, brat kid and 2 others, in a neighbouring town 15 miles away or so. Each Wednesday, 3 male staff would all go over and hang out with the kids. It went well. Each kid pack bonded with a different member of the party and we made great strides with them. The kid who pack bonded with me was of course brat kid. Most of their issues involved behavioural stuff, so we had to stop them from picking on each other. Mostly though, we all played Minecraft and Roblox. Yeah, I got paid for that. It was the best. And it went on for about 6 months or so, till school got out in May of 2013. When summer went by, brat kid was out of the party because he had other stuff to do. Camp stuff, I assume. Anyway, summer gets out and brat kid is back with the group. Now, as I was prepping to work with him again, I'd heard around the office his mum was quite a pill. Now, we live in a tiny little conservative community, and unfortunately the populace is a bit racist. The woman's Hispanic, and I'd noticed a trend that any Hispanic parents were often disparaged in the office, but I didn't think much of it. Rising action. Why the hell didn't I see this coming? My first time back with the kid, we decided to go swimming. Now, we'd done this before, usually with 2 staff, but the kids aren't that much of a handful, so I took the shift on my own. No big deal, right? Anyway, swimming goes well, but when we're getting out of the pool and in the locker room, I get dressed on my own, then come out to find brat kid just standing there, naked as the day he was born. I encourage him to get dressed and he says no. Again, while avoiding any eye contact whatsoever. Hey, that ceiling tile is interesting AF, you know. I tell him again he needs to get dressed. Brat kid says, if you don't let me do what I want, I'll say you touched me. Excuse me, what the F? I play it off as no big deal, telling him, well then I won't be able to work with you anymore. He apologizes. I get back to the office and say, hey, by the way, this kid threatened to say I touched him. Boss and I make a note of it and we both agree he had to have heard it somewhere. As the fall goes on, kids having trouble in school. Mum behind the scenes is apparently trying to convince people that one of the other kids at the group is touching him. I don't put 2 and 2 together, but definitely stand up for the other kiddo. He's very into women and think boys are icky. Brat kid, on the other hand, is about as touchy-feely as Liberace in a penis factory. I note this all in the documents, of course. Mum continues asking me to work with him one-on-one. Again, no connection made. Sweet, more money. I do it. Documenting thoroughly, of course, anytime he does weird crap, which is increasingly often. It's all going pretty well, then comes my today I effed up moment. Climactic moment. This is theatre lingo, not sex, you damn perverts. So once a month we do a kids overnight at a neighbouring town. We go to a hotel, swim, play vidya and so on. Come November, boss is encouraging me to let some of the kids I work with go along, so I tell the parents. Only Brat's mum is really interested, so Brat Kid goes with. All goes well, till bedtime anyway. At this point, Brat Kid snags the big bed that's usually reserved for 2 kids. I have to stay in the room with him, so I get a blow-up mattress ready. Then the little turd asks me to use the bed too. Excuse me, what the F? Well, of course we have separate beds, but it didn't really matter in the end. On January 2nd, it happened. Brat's mum made a formal accusation. She went down the line saying I did everything in the book at every location we'd ever visited on our outings. Diddled him in the library, diddled him at the park, diddled him in the hotel room, with vivid account of penetration for good measure. Now this is the point in the story where Brat's mum's job becomes incredibly important. See, she works at the Department of Human Services, aka the place in my state that hands out food stamps, welfare checks and accusations of child abuse. She's just a food stamp pusher, but she likes to use discrimination as a battle cry if anything doesn't go her way. And so, despite no evidence, she forced the issue. DHS makes a formal 30-day analysis, and when it's all done, guess what? I'm cleared. End of story, right? Nah, bro. Mum appeals, without my knowledge, and adds an hour-long doll therapist session into the evidence, without my knowledge. The case goes from unfounded to confirmed, founded and placed, without my knowledge. March 28th, 2014. Suddenly, I no longer have a job, and I can't work in my chosen field for 10 years. Excuse me, what the F? Falling action. Enter Daniel Effin Webster. So up until now, it's probably not been super clear why Mum's pulling this crap. Thing is, she's out of home because she's out of money, and she wants to sue my place of employment to get a new home. Currently, they're living in a donation house that's set to be demolished. I find this out and other facts during my investigation period. At this point, revenge isn't on my mind, I just want to get out of the hellhole I've been thrown into. First thing I do is start asking around town. Lady has a rep after all. I talked to the cop who refused to arrest me due to no actual evidence, and he says she's been pulling that crap with him for years. For example, he's trying to get the library director arrested for refusing to cancel her overdue fine, discrimination of course. We talk for some time and he ends it with, well maybe I'll start telling her no a bit more. I then head over to the library, and sure enough, the director's all too happy to chat with me. Off the record of course, due to confidentiality. The conversation ends with, well, maybe I'll call her about getting that fine paid. This continues for a few stops as I slowly release her stranglehold on prominent community members, effectively ostracizing her. At one stop, someone suggests I head to the local lawyer, who's well known for not taking any crap. I head over to his office and we chat a bit. He agrees to take on the case for half price. At first, he thinks I'm a raving lunatic with serious paranoia issues, but as time goes on, he collects evidence that paints a very clear picture of what she's doing. He says to me, you know, I think she's making the whole thing up to get a lawsuit. The state's attorney general, yes really, at first can't understand why he's giving out subpoenas faster than Charlie Sheen gives out STDs, but after seeing the evidence, she gets on board too. Only problem is the local DHS does not. See, they want a definitive answer, not a settlement. Why? Because they want to fire Brat's mum. By this point, Daniel Webster can't stand those a-holes, but we have to let it play out. My favourite moment from this period is a phone conference where Brat's mum calls in trying to stop my appeal and gets told to shut the F up by the Attorney General and Daniel Webster. She leaves the call sobbing as she's kicked off by her own counsel. At last we determine in settlement that I take a polygraph. If I pass, the state drops everything. If I fail, I drop my appeal. If it's inconclusive, it goes to trial. Now Daniel Webster straight up says, I never tell people to take polygraphs. People say one thing and the polygraph shows another. It's almost never good for a case, but you need to take that polygraph. He did this under the full understanding that we could walk at any time if it appeared to go in a direction we didn't like, and I said yes, because quite frankly, I was out of money. So I take the polygraph and pass, in the minimum amount of time allotted for the test. Merry effing Christmas. Denouncement. Sweet, sweet revenge. Now, as you may have been noting, I've been taking little actions here and there to prevent this woman from exercising influence. Oh boy did they add up. After my polygraph test, the woman was immediately fired. The other DHS employees had throughout been telling my bosses she's an effing moron, and suddenly they're not allowed to say anything about her. They dropped her like the dirty rotten beer crap that she is. I immediately file a cease and desist order to prevent her from saying one damn word about me. My boss calls me in. Yes, I got my job back. Looking very angry. She says, "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Then, grinning, tells me that Brat's mum pulled her kid from our program. A few weeks later, I'm walking through Walmart, and guess who I see? Their newest employee, Brat's mum. I take the high road and avoid her while simultaneously taking the low road and asking others who know her what's going on. Turns out she lasted a month or two at Walmart before trying the same damn crap and getting kicked out on her ass. Last I heard, she moved out of state, and was later seen trying to file her taxes illegally in our state. Her own lawyer screamed her out of his office. In the end, I don't know how much my own actions actually brought about her downfall. She more or less did it to herself. I just saw her on the cliff and pushed. Silly Brat's mum, you thought I'd be an easy mark. I'm really glad this guy got his job back and exposed this woman for her actions, but I also feel really bad for her son, who was obviously coerced into lying about being touched, which is absolutely disgusting. People like this are the reason that men are afraid to go into these types of positions where they work with kids. It's really disheartening, but I'm glad in this case it's worked out in his favour. Okay, so that's all for r/ProRevenge. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!